Alrighty, guys, welcome to tonight's charting session. It is Monday, July 17th. Hopefully, you guys have been having a good day today. So, we're going to be going over sort of the markets, kind of the action that we had today. I ended up taking two trades. We ended up taking one on the live, and then I ended up taking one in the PM. So, we'll go over both of those trades. So, going into the morning, I did have a more bearish bias. And the reason I had a bearish bias, and I was watching two things. Number one is recognizing what's getting respected, what's getting disrespected. Early on in the morning, we could kind of attest and recognize that order flow was primarily bullish. Pretty much no bearish order flow throughout the entire day. We can see the biggest thing on ES first is we ended up coming down. And the biggest thing I was kind of watching was actually this 4-hour fair value gap. We had this 4-hour bearish fair value gap that I wanted to continue to see get respected. We initially respected it here, and I was looking to possibly see ES come up, sweep this high, and then look to head back lower to take out these equal lows here. If we were to break above this, then I would expect the draw on liquidity to be this high. Same thing on NQ. On NQ, we had this 1-hour fair value gap right here that we were coming back into this imbalance, and actually this one right here as well. And I was expecting that if we broke through these levels, I could expect the draw on liquidity to be higher. Notice right when we end up breaking through this and we close above, look what happens, right? Price comes back down to this area, retests this, and then this now becomes an inverse fair value gap, right? Comes up, continues to reject, but once we end up breaking through this, this now becomes inverse, and this shows that the draw on liquidity is now higher. Same thing with this fair value gap. We initially get the rejection, we come up, reject lower, but if we don't continue to head lower after that, again, still respecting bullish PD arrays, right? We're still respecting these bullish fair value gaps on a short-term time frame as well. Once we come back up and get that bounce, we're also respecting this here, and we break above this, what does the draw become, right? The draw clearly becomes whatever that previous high is, and you can see we just ended up running up straight to that high today. So going into this morning, I did have a bearish bias until we saw all those bearish PD arrays starting to get disrespected. All right, so let's look at the trade. Let's kind of zoom in here. 15-minute on ES going into the morning. Clean setup. Pretty much every ICT trader took this trade today on NQ. Going in, we had that 15-minute high being swept. Still at the time respecting that bigger time frame 4-hour fair value gap as well as that the 15-minute. What are we looking for? Displacement back down. We get big selling pressure back inside the range. You could mark this as break a structure. Once we start to consolidate, again, this is an A+ setup here. Also, we also had this being SMT. So this was, again, A+ setup. I am totally fine taking this loss because I know it'll work for me 9 times out of 10. So we end up pulling back to this fair value gap. Again, what am I looking for the long? I need to see us pull back to discount. Once we pull back to discount, end up entering short, targeting new lows and targeting these equal lows down here that still have not been taken. And in this trade, we were talking about what was going to be respected, what was going to be disrespected at the time, right? So when we're in this trade, what's the biggest thing that we need to see, right? Again, this is everything we want already. We have some sweep of liquidity, break a structure, pulling back to discount, right? All these imbalances, fair value gap, respecting. This was the telltale sign, is this fair value gap right here. Now, when seeing this, we can see that we were constantly rejecting higher, right? Big move up, big move back down, right? And I constantly kept saying in the live session that we will not go back lower unless we can break through this, right? This is going to be the telltale sign, this fair value gap right here, this 1 minute. If we continue to respect this bullish fair value gap, we will see higher. If we actually can break through this, then we should see new lows and actually get a sell-off. And the reason is because we're at 2 points in time right now where you could see this 2 different ways on what the draw on liquidity is. Number one, the one way you could look at this is, hey, 15-minute time frame, we just swept liquidity here. We could be having break a structure to go higher being the draw. That's number one, right? So you have a bullish bias. Also, another bullish bias is we just came down, still respecting these fair value gaps, also have retraced to discount of this range as well. Okay? Pulling back to this fair value gap, this would now be break of structure to long, right? Now, I don't look at it like that because, in my opinion, that's building bad habits, and I think that's the wrong way to look about it in this specific scenario. I don't think anybody, this is not a good long. This is not a good long at all. So for the people that come in and it's hard for you to recognize what's a good trade, what's a bad trade, taking this short is a good trade. Is a really good trade. And if you look and constantly study these setups and you take these, a lot more, when you see them, you're going to be rewarded for them in the long term, right? But this, just because this did not work out for us, does not mean that this was a valid long, right? This is not a valid long. And then after this, we ended up just chopping. Again, slow action in the AM, and then we ended up breaking out and continuing to have a little bit of run up. So let's talk about the trade that I ended up taking in the PM session. And it was actually right here. Actually, wait, no, where was it? It was right here. This is another trade that I actually saw. This was another trade that I see right now that I would have taken. So let's cover this. So just by looking at this right here, tell me where you think, just by looking at this action, tell me where do you guys think that I would have longed here? What price? We have 12 o'clock to 150. Where is the setup here? And why? 140. Yup. 140 is the entry. Brandon spot on, 140. All right, let's talk about why. Number one, looking at price action. We just swept this high in continuing to respect these bearish fair value gaps, right? We just broke through all of these fair value gaps, right? What is this telling us? Drawn liquidity is higher. Right, we're disrespecting all these bearish fair value gaps. We're respecting bullish order flow, and that is telling me that the drawn liquidity is probably going to be higher. Now, what do I expect? Well, we just took that intraday high. Okay, what can I expect now? Pull back to discount, right? We just spiked this high, but look, we're getting displacement through this level. What does this consider? Probably market structure shift. Okay, now what do I look for? Well, I can see that we've just pulled back to discount of this range, right? We just bounced off of this 5-minute fair value gap. So what am I looking for to take some sort of long here? I need to see a break of structure, possibly more structure to the upside for me to take a long. Well, first thing, waiting for the bounce. All right, I would consider this to be market structure shift, meaning I guess you could take this long. I probably wouldn't, though. I would see this as a little bit premature. This market structure shift would not be enough for me to take this long. But this wouldn't be a bad long. I would have waited for this. So now when I get this, what am I looking for? Just this right here, breaking out after that 5-minute, that alone gives me confidence that this high becomes the drawn liquidity. Okay, so now what do I need for a high quality A+ setup? If I can get some sort of internal low being swept with a bounce off of a fair value gap and then another break, that is where I look for, right? Intraday models stacked on top of each other. So what do I look for? All right, we have another 1-minute fair value gap right here as well. I think we have another 5-minute. Yeah, we have another 5-minute fair value gap right here. Okay, we have a bigger time frame PDRA. What do we also have? We have all of these lows here, right? We have this low, ends up getting swept, come down, reject, come down, reject. What do we look for? Instant displacement back to the upside. Now, there's no really clear break of structure here, but I don't need a break of structure in this sense. Right when we come down and we sweep this low and we bounce on that bigger time frame array, and we don't break this initial high here, this is a clear long. Clear long. So this was the long I would have taken, targeting buy side. And this was a really, really clean setup. Again, overlapping those models, right? Why not 127? Here? Because there's no displacement back to the upside yet. I'd have to see this get broken through. Again, look at this. This now becomes inverse. I would not long here because I don't know if this bearish fair value gap is going to hold or not. Once we break through this, then I can understand that order flow is bullish, and then I can take that long. All right, so the long that I actually took was this. Again, very similar setup. So again, similar setup here, looking at the 5-minute. Again, once we're at this point in time, I'm expecting PM macro to just drive up into this liquidity, right? We are literally super close to this high. We're going into PM macro, and I'm expecting to probably just get a run on whatever that high is, right? So what do I wait for? Looked for some sort of, liquidity being swept. We actually had an SMT here. Okay, we have an SMT, clear order flow. What am I looking for? Internal break. We get big displacement back to the upside. This will be my market structure shift. Right? Get that big displacement candle. Doesn't sweep this high yet, right? This high is not yet taken from this initial push. Comes back. That's my long, targeting that high. Actually targeted a lot above this. And the reason why I didn't scale here and I scaled more up here. And again, look at the fucking, if you let that, I should have probably just let it run to that high, but I didn't. The reason why is because at ES at the time, when we initially broke above this, order flow is so bullish that I'm not even worried about an SMT at the highs, that I know that ES is still pushing towards whatever the draw is. So if ES has a lot more room to go, then I can expect NQ to probably get a little bit more extra of a push on a squeeze. I'll show you ES at the time. Looking at ES here. At the time, we were forming these equal highs. So when NQ initially took that high, we were like right here. And then we started to get a little bit more momentum. Still forming equal highs, still forming equal highs, still forming equal highs. Again, looking at this point here, we're forming all these equal highs on ES. I'm expecting this to get broke through, right? I'm not expecting to see some sort of SMT here because ES and NQ are both reaching for that liquidity level at that high, right? Especially when we're in macro as well. Looking for this, I can expect NQ to probably get an initial push up when ES actually breaks out. And then you can see ES and NQ both have that end of day macro push to take out that level. Big volume, and then once we sweep that, we start getting displacement back to the downside. No, okay, so listen, I didn't take it on the funded because it was gonna be unfair. I'm not gonna take any trades outside of the live on the funded unless I can make sure that a decent amount of people can get the alert. Because I don't want to cheat. I don't want to cheat you guys. I got you, yeah. If we take a loss together, I'm not gonna bring it back on my own without you guys with me. So I'm still down on the funded. Even like I had confidence in this trade, so I took it on my actual account, so I made money on this. But I did not take it on the funded because I would not leave you guys in the dark like that. So we'll be back tomorrow to bring it back. All right, so let's look at some price action here and talk about what we're going to be looking at going into tomorrow. So let's clear the charts up here a bit. So, order flow has constantly been bullish. It has been, I mean, like, it's kind of getting to a point where we are in such a bull market right now that there's no stopping it. There's literally no stopping us. And honestly, I haven't really seen this much of, like, a bull market since I don't even know when. Like, ever since, when was this? In May. Literally start of June, pretty much. Start of June, we've literally just been straight up. Like here, we've had some consolidation. We have a little bit of a trend move this week. All right, okay, we actually, move up this week. Then we have, a bear week. Okay, then bull week, then some consolidation. We've just been straight up, right? So I'm starting to lean a little bit more bearish. And the reason is because if I'm being honest, I think the reach is honestly going to be all-time highs. But where we are right now, I think I want to see some sort of displacement back down. We're in this daily fair value gap. We have a weekly inverse. I just think we need some sort of pullback. Again, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to fight the trend, though. But looking at this kind of weekly structure and this kind of action, I would like to see us start to get displacement back down and come back into this range a little bit, if we can. But I'm not going to fight it. So looking at the 4 hour and kind of where we are right now, again, looking at kind of where we are previously, right? What kind of happens when we get some sort of move, all right? Well, okay, let's look at this leg up, right? Okay, what happens when we get a nice, leg up? We get a discount, right? Pull back to discount, continue higher, make new highs. All right, wow, we have a big push up here. Okay, what do we expect? Move to discount, right? Move to discount, make new highs. What am I expecting here, guys? Same exact thing. Move to discount, probably make new highs, if not break through this and maybe see low and then sweep this, maybe go highs. Again, a lot of it is going to depend on bigger time frame for me to be bearish. But going into the rest of this week and kind of maybe even next week, I would like to see us retrace the discount. So on bigger time frame, I would want the draw and liquidity to be this 4-hour fair value gap. If I zoom in as well, we had this low that was created where, in my opinion, all of these stops are still resting here. So I don't know if you guys watched ICT's new video on institutional order flow, but a lot of the time when we get moves like this, this now becomes breakaway gap. In all of these resting lows that have still been here, I still think we're going to come back to. So looking at the 1 hour, this 4-hour fair value gap lines up perfectly with discount. So I'd like to see this now become break of structure. So if we can somehow come up, we swept this high now. I'd like to see this become our displacement level, meaning I'd like to start seeing a little bit more selling pressure. If we can come down and sweep this low and actually, or not sweep it, actually get a break through it and displace lower, then I could expect us to get continuation to this 4-hour and then possibly bounce. But if we come down and sweep this level, I would expect to see new highs because bigger time frame, we do have, I guess you could draw in an implied fair value gap, but that's kind of lame. I wouldn't really do that. I mean, I guess really there's not really an imbalance here that we can, say for sure because a lot of it's just kind of slow, choppy action. But we do have this daily fair value gap. So we actually did pull back to a daily today and then go see new highs. So we retrace back into this daily fair value gap, instantly bounce, strong pressure back to those new highs. So going into tomorrow, again, depending on what happens in the overnight session, we can see that we've swept this high, getting big displacement back down. I'm going to be watching this fair value gap here. Now, kind of zooming into the 5-minute, we haven't really had clean structure shift. I mean, I guess you could mark it here, but biggest thing as I would be watching for is to see a push back up in here and then look to see some sort of break of structure back to the downside, and then that could be a possible short, right? So bigger time frame, we have a 15-minute fair value gap. If we can come back to this, right, back to discount and then form some intraday structure here and then look to take a short, right? Meaning, all right, let's say we maybe consolidate here at the open. We have a high here. Wow, we sweep the high. Wow, oh my God, break a structure and then look to take a short targeting that initial low, right, whatever that is. Now, probably won't look as clean as that, but that's kind of something that I want to look for going into tomorrow. Now, again, if we break through this, I would expect the draw to be higher, right? Especially with this kind of market that we've been in. I'm pretty sure like any day in the last like 3 weeks, if you just bought at the open, and actually that's probably not true, but I mean, if you bought at the open and held and then sold at the end of the day, you probably have made money. But going into tomorrow, if we end up invalidating this fair value gap, then I'd expect the draw to be higher. So again, biggest thing I'm watching for, are we respecting this fair value gap or are we disrespecting this fair value gap, right? This now becomes inverse and then we see higher. And then depending on what happens when that time arises is when I'm going to be able to have a confident understanding on what the draw and liquidity is going to be, right? So let's take a look at NQ here as well. Again, very similar action on NQ. Could the charts up a little bit. All right, same thing. We just ended up sweeping that 15-minute high, starting to have some displacement back down. Watching to see if we end up coming back to any of these imbalances here. Bigger time frame as well, going to the 4-hour. Again, same thing. Want to see us come back to discount of this range. Now, NQ is actually a little bit more interesting, and the reason is because we went over this last night. But these weekly highs, right? We just swept these weekly highs, and I'm pretty bearish on NQ at this time, just because of where we are, and I think that we're a little bit overextended. We have this monthly fair value gap. We just swept these equal highs. We're looking at the weekly. Like, look at this monster move, right? Absolute monster move to take these highs. Again, market can do whatever it wants. I would not be surprised if this is what the next, like, month, 2 months looks like, right? Like, I would not be surprised if we just go straight to all-time highs because NQ is looking super, super bullish. But if there is any point in time for us to reject or see some sort of retracement, it would be now, right? This is the time on NQ for us to start getting some selling pressure, and I would want the draw on liquidity to be, somewhere down here and come back to these fair value gaps, right? This one specifically on the weekly, because we haven't retraced back to this. So this would be what I would be watching for, and this also aligns with this past level here as well, acting as breaker. So if there's a way to react, it would be now. I would want to see us put in a fucking high here soon on NQ to then come back down. So daily, not really any clear sell side level. I still have those equal lows marked here. I would really kind of consider this whole area to be sell side, and then as well, of course, this low here. again, straight up action causing volume imbalances and fair value gaps. So this whole area is what I would expect price to, attract back to. Zooming into a 4 hour. Again, a lot of, we have this fair value gap here that I'm going to mark in. And then we have this one right here as well. And the reason why I like this one is because we also have a breaker as well. So going into tomorrow on NQ, again, zooming back in a little bit on the 15-minute. Same thing on ES. Want to see what happens in the overnight session, first of all. Going to look to see, are we respecting, disrespecting, fair value gaps. I'm going to be watching that 15-minute fair value gap. Sorry. And when we come back up, again, are we respecting this, disrespecting it? Again, a lot of it is going to depend on what happens in the overnight session. But I would like to see a little bit more of a sell-off to go back to discount of this range here. Any questions? How can I get scared from opposite direction fair value gap? Yeah, you need bigger time frame analysis, right? You need a bigger time frame draw on liquidity as well as, intraday draw on liquidity. Like when you can align every sort of time frame bias with whatever trade you're taking, it's going to be a more confident setup, right? You're taking, a 15-minute sweep of a high, but you're in an overall bearish trend on a 1 hour time frame. That's probably a more likely setup than you taking a short after a 15-minute high when, you've been constantly making new high after new high after new high. On your PM trade, could you go back below your stop is a low resistance possible liquidity run? Did that spook you at all? I honestly did not notice it whatsoever if there was. So let me go back and check. Wait, sorry, it's on NQ. Yeah, so this doesn't scare me. And let me take this off because it's, there we go. Okay. So this being low resistance liquidity, again, this only becomes low resistance liquidity if the draw is lower, right? This only becomes low resistance liquidity if the draw is lower. And looking at price action and looking at this chart, the draw on liquidity this entire day has been that high, right? We're looking at this action. Okay, I could go into the morning saying, hey, this also becomes low resistance liquidity. We don't break it. Okay, all of these lows stacked, all these lows stacked, and we continue to make new high after new high after new high. So I'm not scared here because I have confidence that where we are in this specific point in time and where we are in the charts, that I'm confident that the macros are just going to run to, buy side. I've seen it. I've seen it so many times that I'm not really worried about it. Like, it didn't even cross my mind, to be honest. Now, I would be worried about this if we've already taken that high. If we've already taken this high, then I would be worried about this. But since we haven't, I'm not really worried about it. And after seeing this kind of action the entire day, I'm also not worried about it as well. But good question. Literally 2 months ago, I thought you were all speaking gibberish. Now I understand all of this crazy. Let's go, bro. That's sick. Do you take into account stop run macros? In what instances? And and what specifically do you mean? Like, if I'm in a trade and I get stopped, am I thinking of it as a stop run for in a macro, or I'm a little bit confused on what the specific question is because I want to answer it to the best of my ability. Were there any red flags from this morning /NQ trade? Yeah, let's talk about that. In my opinion, maybe. I mean, okay, the only thing that I could say, which is like, again, A++++, is we didn't yet retrace the discount of this massive range. Okay, that's one thing you could say. Actually, wait, no, did we? That initial move, we did, right? Never mind, we did. So that's not even it. So honestly, not really. There wasn't really any red flag here. We had SMT, like the only red flag is this. And this was in our trade. This was like this is hindsight because this was happening, while watching the trade play out. But this is right here is respecting this fair value gap is the only thing I could say. Would you be reluctant to trade in those macros? No, I want to trade in those macros because I can take advantage of whatever the draw is, right? If I have a clear setup and I know a macro is going to run, I mean that if I have a confident setup on whatever the draw is, then that macro is probably going to help push to whatever that level is, right? Wasn't that 1 minute fair value gap silver bullet? No, I don't think there was any clear silver bullet trade today. Again, guys, if I'm being completely honest, I think I don't trade silver bullet. And I don't really want to trade silver bullet because silver bullet, in my opinion, is one of the worst ICT models, if I'm being completely honest. Why? Because it's all speculation. You don't with what we look for to trade, you need specifics, right? I need to, break a structure, I need this. Okay, I can recognize the action. With silver bullet, the only thing the model is basically saying is you need one fair value gap that is created between 10 and 11, and you have to have whatever clear draw on whatever the opposing liquidity pool is. And at this specific time, again, this is all hindsight. If the market was to do this, right? If the market was to do this, then ICT would post saying this was silver bullet. If we did this, everybody would post saying this is silver bullet. Like it can go either way. And a lot of the times there's really no clear way to understand which one is which without putting thousands of hours into screen time. Which, in my opinion, again, it's possible. I know traders that trade silver bullet and are very successful with it. But me personally, I think silver bullet is hindsight Andy. Now, I will continue to backtest it, and I have been. I don't really, like, when we're in the live sessions, I don't really talk about silver bullet much unless I, want to, I have some sort of maybe confidence in it, and I'll talk about it and say, hey, this is probably silver bullet here. But I will never actually take it until I have more confidence with it, because in my opinion, silver bullet is it hasn't been rewarding, and from what I've backtested and seen. But maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way, right? That could be a possibility as well. How would you journal today? AM trade specifically, why did it fail? What can I put in as to why it failed? Good question. So again, this type of trade, when I go to the journal this, I'm going to say, hey, I stayed patient today. I waited for my setup, and I took an A+ setup today, and it ended up stopping me out. I'm totally fine taking that loss. Now, what can I maybe learn from this? Okay, what I can maybe learn from this is if I want to be a little bit more, quick on my feet, right when we continue to respect this, I could maybe take it off. Let's say this. Another thing I was actually, contemplating as well is looking for an initial entry. You want to wait for whatever fair value gap you're opposing to be disrespected. Meaning, if I'm in a short model here, I would wait to take a short entry after this gets broken through, right? So what I could have maybe done here, right? Now, again, this is hindsight as well. But what I could have maybe done here is when I continue to see this get respected, and again, I basically said this in the live as well, is, my stop is, somewhere up here. If this continues to hold and we continue to bounce, we will get stopped. Like, we will continue, we'll get stopped if this continues to hold. So when I see this continuing to hold, I can maybe take it off early, take it off a break even, and then wait to see this get broken through to then add, right? Now, again, I normally say, right, you want to wait for your PT or your stop loss, right? The only two outcomes. But in specific cases, if you can learn to be quick on your feet in this case and not overanalyze, but take into account what markets are telling you in front of your face, then that's good. I'm fine with that, because you're playing more risk off than risk on, in a sense that you're taking into account what the market's telling you right now, and you're quick acting with it, right? Now, I'm not saying to every single trade that you're in and you start to get choppy action, you automatically take your trade off because you're scared. I'm saying let the market tell you what it wants to do, right? When we're looking at this chart and we're on live and I'm saying, okay, guys, right now we're in between these two fair value gaps, right? We're coming up. This is the one in discount. We have this bullish fair value gap. We overall have a bearish bias. If we continue to hold this fair value gap, we're probably going to see higher prices. All right, we're starting to respect this. Again, at this point in time, we need to break through this. If we do not break through this, we're probably going to get stopped, because we hold here, we hold here. Now we're rejecting this fair value gap here. If we get this big sell-off here and we don't break through this, I would expect draw on liquidity to be higher. Once we come this and we break through this, I just take off the trade, right? And I wouldn't look to add short until this gets broken through. Now, a lot of people, right when we got stopped out today, and you saw this initial candle, everyone's like, oh my God, I got stop hunted. Like, I got stop hunted. And I was like, guys, For me to take any sort of trade, for me to get back into any sort of short, I would still have to see the exact same thing happen. I would have to see this get broken through, right? And it never ended up happening, right? So there was no short opportunity at all. And then again, once this action started playing out, this is when you just don't trade because every sort of PD array is getting disrespected. Until action starts to smooth out later in the day, I wouldn't look to take any sort of trade here. For the morning, looking at the 5-minute, wouldn't this be better market structure shift? Sometimes the 1 minute isn't reliable. For this specific case, no. And the reason is because this high gives us a time where 1 minute is going to be more valuable than a 5-minute. And the reason is because looking at a 15-minute, right? If we just sweep this high and we're waiting for a 5-minute, just looking at this candle alone, we did have this 5-minute here. Like we had this 5-minute. But if you wait for break of structure here, again, I wouldn't consider this to be break. I mean, okay, bigger time frame, I would. Like if let's say we took that initial short and then we ended up selling off, right? Bigger time frame, you could say this would be market structure shift, right? But I'm trying to trade the sweep of that initial high. This is more of after the case. So I guess you could. Again, you could literally only trade the 5-minute and be profitable. But at this point in time, I would still say that the 1 minute would be valid to get a more precise entry. And a tighter stop, because you have to realize as well, if you're trading that 5-minute, you're gonna have to adjust your size because your stop's gonna be looser. 9:10 a.m. low. Would you count it as sell side? And that's why our draw on liquidity was higher. 9:10. No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Again, this is just a random 1 minute low. If you go to a bigger time frame, this again gets this. It's not there. So I wouldn't say that's the reason. No. Did the low swept on the trade on the AM? Did that low swept did not lower the quality of the trade? Is that the same question? This low? 5, 7, 10. No, it didn't. Again, this means nothing to me. This low does not do anything for me here. Again, you got to zoom out here. You want to look at overall external levels that are going to be clear to you, right? What is clear to me when I look at this 5-minute? What is the highs? Okay, this is a clear high. Notice there's nothing other than here. Okay, these are clear lows. We have equal lows. Okay, that is a clear low. There is nothing here for me to mark that this is sell side. There's nothing here. Now, you could say that we came into this imbalance, this old 5-minute fair value gap, probably a 15-minute fair value gap here as well. Sure, we bounce off that, but this would not be some... I mean, you could say that there's some sort of sell side resting here, but I would not say that we ended up running the entire day because we swept that low there. No, that's not. Again, overall drawn liquidity is higher ever since we had bounced off that initial daily fair value gap as well. With our trade this morning, since there were 2 fair value gaps at discount, is it best to wait for the first one for OTE or take the second one when I assume the first one was a breakaway gap kind of? So you could do institutional, why am I blanking? I forgot what, you could scale in is basically what I'm saying. So number one, I'd always wait for discount. When you're looking at this type of fair value gap, right? When there's, 1, 2, 3 fair value gaps here, always wait for discount first. Once you see discount, you can enter, and then you can either wait to see that initial rejection and wait for that fair value gap to get disrespected, right? So you can enter discount, wait for this to get ran through, and then look to add your full position. Or just add it full in discount. I did that today. I was able to limit some losses due to price action telling me so. They ended up great calls. I saved some good capital just to get a dub today, which strings, but my losses today were half of what they normally are, so I chalk up that win. Hey, again, building good habits, right? Recognizing that as well. Again, now fixing and tweaking those little mistakes. Let's make a homework channel in the Discord so we can give everyone homework over the weekend, due on Sunday. Absolutely, 100%. I agree with that. Let's do it. All right. Any last questions, guys? A replay? Nah, no replay session at night because I got to go to the gym in like 10 minutes. When anytime that I start replay, I do it for like I'll do it too long. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your night. Anybody has any extra questions or want me to look at anything, again, feel free to always just at me in the Discord and I'll help you guys out. Enjoy the rest of your night. I will see you all tomorrow morning. Get some rest. Let's have a good day tomorrow. Let's bring it back and let's get it. Enjoy the rest of your night. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.